got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun.
All right, humanoids, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is June 25th, 2024. We are live streaming on Rumble, on Locals on YouTube. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell if you haven't, and join us over at rubinreport.locals.com, where we've got a post-game show after every single show, and you help keep us independent and make sure that I can afford coffee and a pen and paper, so it's all pretty good. Today's show is a little different. We set up the show a little bit differently than usual. You guys know that I always like to end the show on positive news, so we usually start with something kind of crazy that sets us up for the narrative for the hour, and then we always try to end on a positive note. But I thought today, why don't we start with something positive and end with something positive? It has never been done in internet history before, but there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot happening politically. Of course, Jamal Bowman might be out today. That is right. There's a Democrat primary in New York 16, which is that Westchester district, and George Latimer hopefully will beat him as a Democrat. I don't even know a lot of the policies of George Latimer. If you don't live in the district, you shouldn't care that much about that, Congressman, but getting rid of one of the Hamas caucus members would be great. So it's a big day for the people of New York. However, we are going to start with something just kind of on the science side of things that will get us to the political side of things, which is Elon Musk's Neuralink, because it is doing some really incredible things. And, you know, we always talk about how the system is coming after Elon, right? Like, he bought Twitter. He was a hero of the media. Now he's the bad guy because he's defending free speech. He's also sending us to Mars. He's building tunnels underground to get rid of traffic all over the country. Like, he's doing all of these things. And in a normal world, people would be thinking of him as sort of the Renaissance man hero. That's what I think the large populace thinks of him as, except we have that lying media layer and the lying political class that anytime anyone does something interesting or defends people's rights or defends freedom or freedom of speech particularly, they always come after you. So one of the things that we haven't talked about that much is what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink. And it really is absolutely incredible. So I want to show you a video. This is from Joe Rogan's podcast. This is a guy by the name of Noland Arbaugh. He is one of the first people using Neuralink. He became a quadriplegic a couple years ago in 2016, and he is now using Neuralink. And actually, I'll just let him explain what it's doing for him, and then we'll go from there.
That's so interesting that it's tied to your mind telling different parts of your body to move. I'm obviously very ignorant to this stuff. I thought like you were just using your mind and telling the cursor to go around.
Yeah, so it's something that is true. So it's something that we differentiate. There are what are called attempted movements and imagined movements. So at the very beginning, I did a lot of attempted movement. Attempted movement is just what it sounds like. I attempt to move my hand in a certain direction. I attempt to move my fingers, like lift your finger up, down, left, right. I attempt to do something, and then the algorithm will take that and translate it to cursor control. But what I realized maybe a few weeks in was that I could just think cursor, go here, and it would move. It blew my mind when that happened for the first time. When I moved it for the first time with my mind without attempting to move at all, I was giddy the entire day. I could not believe what had just happened. And I think we're going to find that with a lot of things.
Is there a hope in the future of utilizing this technology to help people regain movement?
Yeah, that's one of the plans.
Okay, so there's so much to talk about here. So first off, he became a quadriplegic. Quadriplegic means he can't move his arms, can't move his legs, lower body, in 2016 after a swimming accident. Now, what he talked about there was a video that we did show you once. We're going to show it to you again right now, where he can now literally think about a chess piece moving, and using Neuralink, which is now implanted in him, you can actually make the chess piece move on the screen. So that's into the digital world. I suspect they'll eventually have a physical world version of that as well, but let's put that aside for a moment. Here's him moving the chess piece for the first time.
I think it just became intuitive for me to start imagining the cursor moving. Basically, it was like using the force on a cursor, and I could get it to move wherever I wanted. Just stare somewhere in the screen, and it would move where I wanted it to, which was such a wild.
Right. It's just unimaginable, right? It's science fiction come to life. It is absolutely incredible. And of course, I will link this to why the system's always going after Elon Musk. But these are the things that that man is creating, right? Imagine someone who thinks they are never going to be able to get up again. And it is likely that he won't. I mean, maybe they can, there'll be some innovation in science and quadriplegics will be able to move again, or he'll regain some function of the hands or the legs or both, or who knows. But in the meantime, that you can now do things that would be beyond unimaginable science fiction only a few years ago. Here's a bit more of Noland talking about what other testing is being done on pigs, actually, as it pertains to movement that might eventually make its way to humans.
Do they have a plan on when to try this?
They're already trying it in animals. They have one in a pig. You can watch the video of it, where basically they have an implant in the pig's brain and an implant in the pig's spinal cord, I think in the thoracic section of the spinal cord. And they have been moving the pig's legs on its own. The pig's not paralyzed or anything, but basically they tell the pig, come to this section of, they grid off the floor and they put food in a section of the grid. And they're like, if you're okay with us testing on you, pig, come over here, basically. And the pig will go in there, and then they will take control of the pig's leg, and they will start playing around with it, making the pig, so this right here. So all those movements right there, the pig's leg, are them. They're doing it. So, and this is just the beginning, obviously.
Think how unbelievably cool this is, and innovative and brilliant, right? So not only can now he think about moving a chess piece and it can move on the screen, but now they're testing it out in pigs so that they will be able to implant something into a pig, and then again, eventually it will work its way to humans, so that that guy right there will be able to walk one day, right? So that he'll be able to move his arms one day and get up out of that chair and all of those things. It is absolutely incredible. And of course, I can do the scary sci-fi version of it, which is they implant something in you, and then of course they can control all of us. And we should think about those things and want it as decentralized as possible and secure and all that, but let's put that aside for a moment. I want to show you one other thing related to Neuralink that Elon's doing, and then you'll see where we're going for the rest of the show, because not only are they going to help paraplegics be able to do work and live in a new way and live in the digital world through Neuralink, as we just showed you, and also hopefully eventually walk and all that, but they are also actually helping blind people. It's just incredible.
And the initial devices will really just be pretty basic. It'll be about restoring functionality to people who've lost their connection between their brain and their body. So you can imagine, if, say, Stephen Hawking could talk or communicate as fast as somebody with a fully functioning body. Mm-hmm. That would be amazing. So that's what we're trying to do. That's our first application, is to restore functionality to quadriplegics, tetraplegics, and people who have just, for whatever reason, no longer have a connection between, or have a limited connection between their brain and their body. Mm-hmm. And then the second application would be restoration of eyesight. So if somebody's gone completely blind, maybe even has lost the optic nerve, you can actually still directly stimulate the neurons in the visual part of the cortex. So you can give direct vision to the brain. Mm-hmm.
That's the bad guy, right? If you were just looking at the story that is told to us from the mainstream media, Elon Musk, the guy that's helping quadriplegics walk and blind people see and sending us to Mars and saving free speech on Twitter and putting satellite internet up there, which I've got on the roof of this house. So if all of the internet of Miami went down, I could still do this show for you. Fine people. He is the ultimate bad guy. So now we're going to connect that to some stuff with Jake Tapper, who is one of the two hosts of the debate on Thursday night, and why the media goes after people who innovate and are changing the world. And then, of course, promote all of the people who are doing the bad stuff. We'll do that in just a second, but let me tell you guys about Moinkbox. You guys already know that 60% of U.S. pork production comes from one company owned by the Chinese, and their hogs are given ractopamine, which is banned in 160 countries, including China, yet you find it in your grocery aisle every day. Well, there's a better way. You know, that's Moink, Moo plus Oink. Moink delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, and sustainable wild-caught Alaskan salmon straight to your door. Moink farmers farm like our grandparents did, and as a result, Moink meat tastes like it should because the family farm does it better. The Moink difference is a difference you can taste, and you can feel good knowing you're helping family farms stay financially independent as well. You choose the meat delivered in every box, like ribeyes, chicken breasts, pork chops, and salmon fillets, and much more. Plus, you can cancel anytime. Shark Tank host Kevin O'Leary called Moink's bacon the best bacon he's ever tasted. Plus, they guarantee you'll say, oink, oink, I'm just so happy I got moinked. Keep American farming going by signing up at moinkbox.com/Rubin right now. And listeners of this show get free bacon for a year. That's one of the best bacons you will ever taste, but for a limited time. And now, back to me. All right, so what I want to do, we just showed you a whole bunch of super cool sci-fi level innovation that Elon Musk is doing. And now I want to connect this to something that's happening this week, which is the presidential debate, because the two co-hosts of the CNN debate are Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. And Jake Tapper, I always make fun of the MSNBC people. It's very easy to go after the Joy Reids and the Rachel Maddows, like the abject clowns, right? Or the ladies of The View, Sunny Hostin, like the people who are just wrong about everything. They're just awful and all of that stuff. Jake Tapper is sort of an interesting character because people always say, well, oh, you're always crapping on CNN, but Jake Tapper is not too bad, right? He's not so horrible. He's not Brian Stelter or Jim Acosta, except Jake Tapper, in a weird way, by being not too bad, it offers cover for all of the badness of the network. And I think we're going to see a bunch of that on Thursday night. So I want to jump back now. This is about a year ago. This is Jake Tapper going after Elon Musk because Elon would not allow Starlink to be used so that Ukraine could launch an offensive attack on Russia.
SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has recently confirmed a report that's in Walter Isaacson's new biography of Musk that last year Musk blocked access to his Starlink satellite network in Crimea in order to disrupt a major Ukrainian attack on the Russian Navy there. In other words, Musk effectively sabotaged a military operation by Ukraine, a U.S. ally, against Russia, an aggressor country that invaded a U.S. ally. Should there be repercussions for that?
Jake, I can't speak to a specific episode. Here's what I can tell you. Starlink has been a vital tool for the Ukrainians to be able to communicate with each other.
I don't know that you can't speak to it. You won't speak to it. Musk says he was reportedly afraid that Russia would retaliate with nuclear weapons. Musk says that's based on his private discussions he had with senior Russian officials. Are you concerned that Musk is apparently conducting his own diplomatic outreach to the Russian government? Really, none of this concerns you? It sounds like Starlink's so important the U.S. government doesn't want to risk offending a capricious billionaire who did some things that I think in another situation the U.S. government might want to say something about, but let's move on.
Okay, so now I think you'll see how I'm linking this to the debate in just a moment, but a capricious billionaire, right? The guy who put the satellites up there, who decided that he didn't want his technology to be used so that Ukraine could start attacking inside Russia, and Russia, as I have said all along on the Ukraine thing, doesn't matter what side of it you're on or what you think of Putin or anything else. At the end of the day, he has nukes. So if Ukraine had used the Starlink technology to do some major damage to Russia, Russia might have dropped a nuke, and that would that would quite literally be World War III. Elon saw that clip of Jake, and he wrote this on Twitter: "I am a citizen of the United States, and I have only that passport. No matter what happens, I will fight for and die in America. The United States Congress has not declared war on Russia. If anyone is treasonous, it's those who call me such. Please tell them that very clearly." So the point here is, of course, is that Elon, because he is changing the world in a positive way, because he bought Twitter and allowed for more free speech, because he took away the elite blue check of the journalists and open that up to everybody, right? We covered that yesterday. He has the system extremely angry at him. And there's a bunch of people who run cover for the system. One of them is the co-host of the debate on Thursday night, Jake Tapper, and we will get to that in a moment. Let me tell you guys about Pure Health Research. Guys, in these challenging times, it's more important than ever to prioritize your health and the health of your loved ones. But there's a hidden threat that's been quietly affecting millions of hardworking folks like you, a sluggish and overworked liver. Just like how our traditional values are under attack, your liver is under constant assault by GMOs, microplastics, toxins, fluoride, and all of the stuff that you might not even know about. It's time you take action. That's where Pure Health Research comes in with their groundbreaking supplement, Liver Health Formula. The natural ingredients and nutrients in the formula are designed to support your liver's natural detoxification processes, from head-to-toe revitalization, shed unwanted pounds, and maintain an enjoyable active lifestyle. Liver Health Formula is made using only the highest quality, carefully selected ingredients. It has 11 powerful, clinically proven ingredients to detoxify and rejuvenate your liver at the cellular level. As a special offer for my listeners, you can try Liver Health Formula and get a free 1-month supply of nano-powered omega-3 to support your heart health as well. This is an exclusive offer for my audience. Go to getliverhelp.com/Rubin now to claim your exclusive gift and take a proactive step towards a healthier, more vibrant you. That's getliverhelp.com/Rubin. And now back to me. Okay, so yes, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash will be moderating the presidential debate. If you don't believe me, here's Deadline saying that. CNN's Jake Tapper and Dana Bash will moderate the June presidential debate. This, of course, is in 2 days. Now, the reason I am doing the show the way we did is because over the last day or two, the internet has been blowing up with a whole bunch of people saying what a sort of crock this is, that Jake Tapper, no, has not acted as a journalist. He's gone after people like Elon Musk. He's lied about, say, very fine people on both sides, and January 6th, and COVID stuff and everything else, and that he will not be an impartial host of a debate or moderator of a debate. Here's Jake Tapper a couple of years ago basically saying that Trump is a white supremacist.
Is it possible, Congressman, is it possible that the Republican Party is now the party of deranged bigots and there isn't a place in it any longer for a Charlie Dent? That you thought President Trump was a white nationalist. I just wonder, sir, President Trump won your home state of Texas by 9 points. Almost 63 million Americans voted for him. Do you think it's racist to vote for President Trump in 2020?
I think it's really hard after everything that we've seen, from his time as a candidate in 2016 to his repeated warnings of invasions to his repeated calls to send them back, sending back people who are U.S. citizens.
All right, so the first one is great. Is the Republican Party the party of deranged bigots? I'm pretty sure that's the Democrats. That's AOC, that's Jamal Bowman, that's Rashida Tlaib, that's Ilhan Omar, that's Joe Biden, who brought on a Supreme Court justice because she was black. That's a type of racism. The people that are for DEI, the people that are for affirmative action. So you can see, you get it. And of course, the big one that he helped push, and there are still tweets up of him pushing it, is the very fine people hoax.
I think the issue that Eric was expressing is the reluctance to criticize President Trump for specifically saying things like very fine people were marching in that rally that had swastikas and anti-Semitic chants. And there were not any very fine people in that rally.
That's right.
And even Paul Ryan, like, that's right. Of course, that's a complete hoax. Donald Trump was talking about the people on both sides of the debate as to what you do with statues that are controversial. And the next sentence he said was, I'm not talking about the white nationalists or the neo-Nazis who should be condemned completely. I've debunked that a billion times. You guys all know that. But the point is that this guy who has never just apologized for it. Oh, I missed the ball on that one. Actually, the tape that I saw was cut off a little bit earlier. I didn't realize that the next sentence, we have all these editors and people at CNN, and nobody mentioned to me that if I had just sat in the room for another 10 seconds, I would have found out the truth, right? Like, why is it so hard for these people to acknowledge that they're wrong? He never has acknowledged that. And then, as you guys know, Joe Biden ran the first time around with his campaign launch video saying it was because of Donald Trump verifying people on both sides. So they're all in on it. Biden's in on it. Tapper's in on it. What's his name? Paul, not Rand Paul. Paul Ryan's in on it. Like, they're all kind of in on it together. But in any event, he and Dana Bash are the moderators tomorrow night, and it's not like we have video of them being slightly biased against Trump. We have some sort of, we do have that? My God.
That was the worst debate I have ever seen. In fact, it wasn't even a debate. It was a disgrace, primarily because of President Trump. Lying, maliciously attacking the son of the vice president.
You just took the words out of my mouth. You used some high-minded language. I'm just going to say it like it is. That was a show.
The president does not think he's going to win this election, and he wants to bring the rest of us down with him.
There's a lot for President Biden to tout. Americans don't seem to be giving him the credit. Why is that, and what does he have to do to turn that around? He certainly met the moment they wanted him to be a fighter. And boy, fight did he deliver. Trump's claim about Biden orchestrating the trial is baseless. Allegations with absolutely no evidence that he was making against President Biden, that he is behind all of the prosecutions. There's no evidence that Joe Biden was involved. There's no evidence, absolutely no evidence, that Biden himself was involved. Donald Trump is now the presumptive Republican nominee for president. U.S. intelligence agencies are reportedly preparing to share classified briefings with him. Should Donald Trump receive intelligence briefings?
Congressman Brian Mast, a Republican from Florida, who lost his legs, by the way, fighting for democracy abroad. Although I don't know about his commitment to it here in the United States. And we are waiting for former President Trump to make his first formal remarks. We're not carrying his remarks live because, frankly, he says a lot of things that are not true and sometimes potentially dangerous.
Okay, so those are the two moderators for the debate on CNN on Thursday night. And the question is, do you think they are biased? Do you think they will figure out a way to run cover when Joe Biden starts stumbling? Or do you think they will figure out a way to nip Trump in the bud if he starts getting on a run and is being extemporaneous and funny and making good points? Like, would that be so out of the ordinary? All of that being said, I think in a weird way, Donald Trump deserves a little bit of criticism here because he agreed to it. He agreed to not only do it on failing CNN, that's what he called, but he agreed to the moderators, and he also agreed to the rules that there'll be no audience, where he would be obviously helped if there was an audience, that the mics can be cut, where he would obviously be helped if the mics weren't cut and he could get into a little bit of a sparring session. Now, I think he may want that. So it's sort of criticism at some level. It's also credit at another level because he kind of wants it's to seem and appear, and it's actually the reality, that the whole system is against him. CNN's against me, the moderators are against me, blah, 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 and I'll still be up here doing my thing. Check this out. This is from CNN yesterday. There's a host by the name of Cassie Hunt. She had Trump 2024 press secretary Caroline Leavitt on, and Caroline just basically laid out what I just laid out with you and Tapper right there, and they were not having that over on CNN.
It takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently, frequently likened President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will have equal time to Joe Biden when they both join us now at later this week in Atlanta for this debate.
God, that woman is like a horrible third grade librarian or something. Look, what Leavitt was doing there, of course, was the right thing. She was pointing out in preparation for the debate that guys, just so you know, we're doing this thing on CNN, but we know who you guys are. And Donald Trump knows who you guys are. And I have no doubt that Donald Trump will have lines ready. And again, even though I think you can lay some criticism at his feet for agreeing to it, it may be the perfect trap that he's laying for them, which is let's set up the whole damn thing against me and I will expose all of it. If he is good at one thing outside of building hotels, it is that, right? It's exposing all of the BS. But it's also just hilarious that CNN, you bring on a Trump spokesman, you know that they're not going to be like the most friendly with you. You know, you bring them on in essence to be combative or to try to destroy them. And all she did was say, hey, this moderator guy, there's some stuff that he said in the past, you know, maybe comparing Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, maybe that was a bit much. And then CNN, we can't have that on TV. What do you think we're doing over here, people? Anyway, we're going to talk about the woman who could be president if Joe Biden falls down the stairs tomorrow. Her name's Kamala Harris. Nobody likes her and the Dems don't know what to do with her, but she's ginning up the hate and the fear in preparation for the debate. We'll get to that in a second, but let me tell you guys about game day. Guys, are you suffering from daily aches and pains? Clint Winters, a renowned medical scientist, has unveiled a natural pain reliever that's taking the world by storm, Noland. This is a 100% drug-free solution, optimizes your body's natural painkillers called endorphins, providing full body relief without dangerous pills or known side effects. Over 1 million Americans and hundreds of professional athletes, including UFC fighters, have already embraced Nolandine's power. Unlike traditional pain medication, Nolandine doesn't cause grogginess or addiction. It's safe, effective, and affordable, costing just $1 per day with today's exclusive discount. Don't miss this opportunity to beat pain forever. Click the link below to access Clint's informative report and try Nolandine risk-free for 90 days. This private link and discount expire at midnight tonight. Go to trycono.com/Rubin. Experience the future of pain relief with Nolandine. You have nothing to lose but your pain. And now back to me. I'm going to take a sip of some coffee there. All right, Kamala Harris, a woman polling at 0% in her own party's primary when she was plucked out of obscurity by the Vice President of the United States because I think he basically, or whoever's in charge of him, realized this man's breaking down, but we don't want someone competent behind him or they're going to push him out real quick. Who can we get? Here's Kamala. Here's what she tweeted yesterday, because remember, they can run on fear and scary stuff. If Donald Trump gets the chance, he will sign a national abortion ban that would criminalize abortion in every single state. We are not going to let that happen. When Congress passes a law that restores the protections of Roe, President Joe Biden will sign it into law. Okay, there's so many things. There's such a profound lack of understanding of how the government works or what even just transpired with Roe v. Wade, which just had the 2-year anniversary of the reversal and everything else. Roe versus Wade, originally in 1972, when it was passed, said that there was a constitutional right to abortion. So it became legal in every state, right? And then every state had its own expiration time on when you could have the abortion. So some had 12 weeks, some had 15 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. Democrat states, we now know, were going well into the 8-month and post-abortion, which old school, that would be known as murder. The reversal of Roe v. Wade did not make abortion illegal. There is no illegal abortion in the United States. All it did was kick it back to the states, because that is how the Constitution is set up. Things that are not explicitly put in the Constitution are left to the states, not to the federal government. So most people, there were plenty of legal experts who are pro-choice in their own personal lives. When Roe v. Wade got reversed, they thought it was the right decision, not because they were thrilled about it, but because it was more in line with actually what the Constitution says. Donald Trump has also never said that he is going to make abortion illegal federally. And by the way, even if Congress tried to make it legal federally, the Supreme Court already decided it's not a federal issue. But of course, she was just lying altogether, even as per Trump's statements over the last couple of days. David Sachs, I had told you guys that he's one of the co-hosts, of course, of the All In podcast, and he hosted a huge fundraiser for Donald Trump last week in San Francisco. He saw Kamala's tweet, and he tweeted this out, and then we'll show you the video.
To put it simply, it's now up to the states. And like Ronald Reagan, I'm a believer in the exceptions, the 3 exceptions, as you know, and rape, incest, life of the mother, the danger for the life of the mother. And we have a situation now where it's in the states' hands, and the states are going to be voting. The last thing people want, the people are going to be voting. The last thing people want is for that to go back into the federal government. It was always fought, and very importantly, and people wanted it, they wanted it back in the states where it belongs legally and for a lot of other reasons.
So you wouldn't support a national ban?
No, I wouldn't support a national ban. No, I would not.
You know, there's something particularly interesting about this, and I would say this is the best version of Trump. For Trump to say, I will support a national ban, he would get the base fired up beyond imagination, right? So the base that really is absolutely pro-life, and there's an absolutely good and moral argument to make for that position. Even Bill Maher, who is pro-choice, has said that the pro-life argument makes more moral sense than the pro-choice argument, okay? So Trump, what he's doing right there, he's saying, I have these 3 exceptions, but I am not going to just throw red meat to the base, right? Like, I'm going to do something that is more moderate. What is the more moderate position as it pertains to abortion? Would the more moderate position be we're going to ban abortion altogether, or abortion for everybody with no restrictions? Or would the most moderate position for a country of about 330 million people who have all sorts of religious and philosophical differences and cultural differences and everything else, the most moderate position would be kick it to the states, and then you as a human being have to decide, where does abortion fall in your hierarchy of importance? If abortion access, 8-month abortion access, is the most important thing to you, meaning it's more important than immigration and it's more important than taxes and the economy and everything else, then you should move to California. But if it's not that important to you, or you're completely pro-life from a religious perspective, you could say move to a place like Florida, where they have the heartbeat bill 6 weeks. I've written about this and discussed it many times. I am much personally more comfortable with 12 to 15 weeks. Florida has 6 weeks, but that's not something that would cause me to leave this state. But you want as much choice and freedom as possible. But the real thing that's going on here is that because the Democrats know that nobody thinks Biden is cognitively there, nobody has any confidence in Kamala, they have to scare the shit out of you. And they're particularly good about doing this right before elections with women, right? What they do with women, they're going to come for you, and it's going to be the Handmaid's Tale, and they're going to take away abortion and healthcare and everything else. That is what they do over and over again. Here is abortion activist Hadley Duval talking with Kamala Harris about how women's lives are now at stake.
So much. You know, if you have a woman in your life that means something to you, her life is at stake. It does not matter if she is 12, 9, 34. You know, it really does not matter. If there is a woman who is in that reproductive age, then, you know, her life is at stake during this election. And it does not matter if you've never voted Democrat in your life. You know, it's get off your high horse, because women, we don't get to choose, you know, a whole lot, and you at least can choose who you can vote for. And there is a lot of things that need to be worked on, and, you know, we can't get it all done, but at the very least, we could get out of women's business when it involves their health care. And I've always said, you know, I'm pro minding your own business.
She's pro minding your own business, except she's not pro minding your own business. And also, women don't have a lot of things they can choose. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Also, I would venture to say that about 50% of the babies that are aborted are little girls. They're females who will grow up to be women, except they're not going to grow up because you aborted them. Again, and I say this as someone who is begrudgingly pro-choice, right? The position that I take on abortion is the position that every moderate Democrat had 20 years ago. If you would have asked every sane Democrat in the country, what is your position on abortion? It would have been the same thing that Ronald Reagan was saying as a conservative even before that, which is safe and rare, right? So that, okay, let's pick what the week is. But we all know that this 8-month thing is completely insane, this 9-month thing. But they've got to make it seem women will be attacked, because they know as minorities seem to be breaking towards Trump, so as the black community is breaking towards Trump, as Jews are breaking towards Trump, as Asians are breaking towards Trump, as Hispanics, we covered that yesterday, are breaking towards Trump, they have to figure out something. We see what's going on here. What can we do? He's coming after the women. He's going to put you in those funny hats and that red dress, and it's going to be like Handmaid's Tale, and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But of course, this is what they do, and the media helps them do it. And then there's a political class of Democrats that just basically lie about everything. Here's Senator Amy Klobuchar to Sarah Snyder over, I think this is on CNN, talking about Biden and abortion, and Trump is just a bad, bad man.
What do you want to hear from Joe Biden on stage, on the debate stage, when it comes to this issue?
Well, there is such a clear, powerful difference between the candidates, and that ad, I suggest everyone watch that ad. It really brings it home. On one hand, you have Donald Trump, who has said that he is proudly responsible, yes, to be the person who put those judges on that overturned Roe v. Wade. Then you have Joe Biden, who clearly wants to codify Roe v. Wade into law. You look at what's happened in just these, everyone remembers where they were when this decision came out. 2 years later, patchwork of laws, 1/3 of women living in states that have extreme bans. You have doctors in fear of criminalization. You have IVF at risk. You have cases where women, like in Oklahoma, are told to bleed out in a parking lot because they're not quite at the point that they might die to get the kind of reproductive care that they need. This is happening in America today, and it is a clear difference, and you're going to see it in very clear technicolor on that debate stage in the next 3 days, which I'm very looking forward to seeing. 70 to 80% of Americans are with him on this, not just women, 70 to 80% of Americans. And that has been seen in referendums, and Donald Trump is on the wrong side of history.
All right. Again, she's misrepresenting what Roe v. Wade is. I have no idea where she's coming up with this 70 to 80% are with Biden, but obviously you're not going to be fact-checked as a Democrat on CNN. But you can see it. You can really see it. They don't know what to do right now. If you look at what's going on in the Middle East and you look at what's going on with Russia and Ukraine and you look at interest rates and the price of groceries and the border, if you look at all of the stuff, there's very little way Biden can frame that positively. And the media will figure out a way to launder the lie and make it seem like things are better than they are. But that's going to be, let's say, problematic for them, right? And then, of course, the X factor is, can Joe Biden even stand for an hour and a half or 2 hours? Can he complete a sentence? Will he lose his train of thought? How are they going to run cover for him? Are they going to have to cut to commercial? Is he going to poop in his pants? Like, there's all of that stuff too. But you can just see it. What they have to do right now is make sure that women will be freaking out. Because women, what is the group of people that Donald Trump has struggled with the most? Usually it's middle and upper middle class women, right? These are women who live in cities, suburbs, who they've got a little cash, they have sort of the luxury belief system, so they can put abortion all the way high up on that hierarchy that I talked about. Be less concerned about, I think, the things that you probably should be concerned about as a citizen. And if they start moving to Trump, then we're looking at like a Ronald Reagan 1984 49 state when he crushed Walter Mondale type election. I really think that, if we're to believe that elections matter. But you guys get it. They lie about their opponents. And then the other thing they do is they push their endless false agendas. So let's connect this to some other things happening, because you know the big one actually is climate change. When it comes down to how they will figure out what you can eat and where you can go and how you can travel and all of those things, it's all going to be done under the guise of climate change, because the humans are apparently the problem on this planet. There are some humans that are the problem, but it's not all of us. Here is John Kerry, a man who looks more and more like a tree every day, talking about how fossil fuels, the thing that's are heating your house right now and making sure you can cook and drive your car and a whole bunch more, that's the real threat to humanity.
There's one principal cause of what is happening to this planet. It's very simple. It's us. It's the way we choose to light our homes, to heat our homes, factories, to move from one place to another, whether it's airplane, automobile, or truck, or whatever. We burn fossil fuel without capturing the emissions. That said, folks, our clock is really ticking. This is not something where we have the freedom to be able to just sort of play out like a lot of political issues. There is no capacity to come back.
Guys, it's the way we choose to light our homes and heat our homes and fly and all that. Now, of course, you know where I'm going with this already. John Kerry has been flying on a private plane for decades. He owned a private plane. Of course, when he was asked by Congress if he owned a private plane, he got caught in one of the most spectacular lies of all time. Enjoy.
I just don't agree with your facts, which began with the presentation of one of the most outrageously persistent lies that I hear, which is this private jet. We don't own a private jet. I don't own a private jet. I personally have never owned a private jet. And obviously, it's pretty stupid to talk about coming in a private jet from the State Department up here. Just honestly, if that's where you want to go there.
A few moments later.
You just testified under oath that you never owned a private jet. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter into the record article here from February 15th of 2023. The John Kerry family private jet was sold shortly after accusations of climate hypocrisy. Mr. Secretary, do you stand by that testimony that you've never owned or
I personally,
your family?
Your family? Personally, yes. My wife owned a plane.
I really love the internet. You know, I know some of this stuff can be frustrating at times, and I cursed a lot yesterday, but like, that's why they want to control the internet, right? Because they don't want you seeing what the truth is. The gall of that free man to sit there testifying in front of Congress. He said repeatedly, I and we. I mean, he lied under oath. Don't own a plane. And of course, yes, the wife. Can you imagine? I didn't know my wife owned a plane. If David buys a shirt, I know. Like, I see a tag in the closet. Like, it was in a plane I've been flying in this whole time. The point is that man who has many houses, who is lighting his shit however he sees fit, and Al Gore, who sold Current TV to the government of Qatar, which is like the #2 oil exporter on the world. They are hypocrites beyond imagination. I would venture to say that, like, if you took, there'd be no way to empirically do this, but something like if you took virtually all of my audience watching this show today, so let's say at the end of the day, about 300,000 people watch this live stream. If you took all of the emissions that we have all done, unless a whole bunch of you were billionaires flying private all of the time, we could not match what John Kerry has put out in his life. I have been on 2 private flights in my entire life. One was to escape California, to get here to Miami because we didn't want to put the dog under. And one time I took a little flight up for about an hour to Tallahassee. That's it. This man is doing more damage, if you believe that this is damage to the environment, than all of us could. But there is a move, and the move is to take away stuff from us. Own nothing and be happy. Drive less. Go out less. Don't eat meat. Don't cook the way you want, et cetera, et cetera. Here's a man who dresses up like a scientist, so I guess he is one for television, saying also the same thing that John Kerry was saying.
If you meet with people who don't believe in climate change, don't believe in global warming, and there are a lot of them, what do you say to them? What do you say to them to convince them?
So if I could convince people in one sitting, that would be fabulous, but that has proven quite difficult. I tell everybody it takes years where people see the evidence, and the problem we have in climate change is we don't have a 9/11 or a Pearl Harbor. It's slow motion. So everybody that I speak with acknowledges that the climate is changing. Just the nudge that we work on, and people on my side of this, is pointing out that humans are causing it. And we're doing it because we've created this wonderful quality of life for so many people by burning ancient carbon, ancient swamps, coal, oil, gas. We just got to stop doing that. And so there are many alternative sources of energy, but we have to work together to share it.
That, of course, was Bill Nye, the science guy. Is there anyone out there in the public sphere that wears the bow tie that's not a total dickbag? Like, is there anyone like, what are you doing, dude? Like, I'm pretending to be a scientist. Look at me with my bow tie. Scientists don't even wear bow ties. Real scientists don't wear bow ties. They wear the white jacket and they have big glasses. I don't believe in man-made climate change. I'm just telling you, I don't. That'll probably get me canceled more than anything else I've ever said on this show. Like, yeah, the world sometimes warms and sometimes it cools. And in the 70s, they said we were having global cooling. And even if I believed any of it was true, the idea that AOC and her Green New Deal and John Kerry and Bill Nye the Science Guy and Neil deGrasse Tyson and a bunch of these abject buffoons could do anything about it, I'll take my chances. And you know what? If all hell starts breaking loose here, pretty sure I can message Elon and get on a flight to Mars. So we'll be okay. And I'll get you guys on too. Obviously, I'll take care of the people I know. And any of you would be welcome to come with us too. Anyway, they lie about everything. Check out, this is great from Dr. Eli David. This is wonderful. This is it's a compilation of articles and studies in the mainstream media where they say that basically every country is dealing with the warming situation faster than every other country. Tell me how any of this makes sense. Shirelles? First off, I just love that song. That's Heat Wave. Is it the Shirelles? It is the Shirelles. Ha, great. Shirelles got a couple songs on the Dave Rubin Party playlist. Will be busted out tomorrow night because it's Dave Rubin's birthday. Big day for America tomorrow. Of course, yes, Mexico's the hottest place, and Canada's the hottest place, and Europe's the hottest place. So why is it that every place is the hottest place? Why is it that they don't want you driving your car? Why is it they don't want you using your gas stove or flying in a plane when they're doing all of these things? Do you think it's perhaps because they might want an entire new world order and they're ushering it in via climate change? Do you think sometimes they say that and it's on video?
The theme of this year's meeting is Next Frontiers for Growth. In today's world, risks and opportunities coexist. We face major issues such as environmental challenges, energy transformations, rising geopolitical tensions, and social challenges such as pandemics, aging, and widening income disparities.
There's just going to be more, guys. There'll be more problems because of climate change, which is kind of what they want, and there'll be more problems because of pandemics, which they probably started and then pushed this quote-unquote solution on us, which wasn't a solution, and everything else. Somehow they've gotten richer while the poor have gotten poorer, and what really that is about is that in a healthy society, what you would want is a robust middle class. That is what America has done better than any country in the history of the world, right? That many people, virtually all of you watching this right now, your ancestors, whether you're first generation, second generation, third, whatever it is, people came here with nothing, had opportunity, and then they could get into the middle class where you could live a comfortable life. So the lower class people could pray and work hard and do the right thing to get into the middle class. And then middle class, you were safe and comfortable. And then once you were middle class, you could aspire to something else. Wow, I want to be in the top 1%, or I want to be upper middle class, or I want to be able to move to that nicer house in the suburb or that other community or whatever it might be. And that mobility that was not common before America is what we have done so well here. What the globalists are largely doing is destroying the middle class. And what that does is it keeps most of us, probably about 99% of us, and that includes me and you, as basically peasants, and it keeps them flying in their planes and eating their foie gras and all of those things. Check this out. This is Dutch political commentator. I've had her on the show. She's absolutely wonderful. Eva Vladingerbroek, talking to Jordan Peterson about how the globalist plan via green energy is really to just crush the middle class.
It would translate into the middle class, the working class. The class that I would say is being absolutely obliterated by the globalist agenda under the pretext of this green, green morally virtuously, utopia that they're trying to impose on us, which obviously is a dystopian world if you look at the consequences. But so the Mittelstand, the middle class, the hardworking, ordinary people that indeed have become increasingly poor as a result of conscious choices that were made by an elitist government, a globalist government, that do not have the best interests of the people at heart and actively work against their interest. I would say that was the general image that I got. I felt like we are witnessing an uprising of ordinary, hardworking citizens who are being branded by the mainstream media, unrightfully so, as far-right extremists, when in fact, all they want is just, to be able to exist, provide for their family, and do their job without being crushed by bureaucracy, without being crushed by taxes, without being crushed by derogatory labels. The deplorables, as Hillary Clinton called them. Those were the people that were out on the street. And I would say that they were everything but deplorables.
There's so much interesting stuff there because she's giving us that perspective from just a Dutch person, right? Not just a Dutch, from a Dutch citizen who sees the problems happening over there in Holland, right? And then, of course, what we see happening here, what did she say? Well, they don't like the labels. You're alt-right, you're racist, blah, blah, blah. Well, what did Jake Tapper say about Donald Trump? He's Hitler-like, right? Like, what have they said about all of us this entire time? While meanwhile, it's their foot soldiers, the Antifa, Hamas people, who are just pawns in their game, who are out there that are the actual racists and everything else. So That's the climate version of this, but let's connect it to the corporate version of all of this, because this is really something else. Well, it will not surprise you, but I suppose it would surprise some people. There's a senior vice president at Disney who has been caught on tape explaining just how nefarious and evil DEI is, to the point that they will not hire white males at Disney anymore. This should not come as a surprise to you, because we know that this is how they behave, but to get it on tape is rather extraordinary. Take a look.
Certainly, there have been times where, there's no way we're hiring a white male person.
Just kind of unspoken.
There are times when it's spoken, but
how would they say it?
There's no way we're hiring a white male person. They say
like straight to you, or okay?
They'd be very careful how they message that to agents.
According to these videotapes, Disney blatantly discriminates against white men in particular.
I think I'm sort of well prepared for it. I'm well positioned for it. But as far as Disney's concerned, I'm a white male. That's not who they're looking to promote at the moment.
As a white guy, even Michael has his own doubts about the possibility for advancement for himself at Disney. In fact, Michael actually got to experience Disney's discrimination against white males firsthand.
I've been at the company 11 years now, so I have friends in HR and I have friends in other divisions, and they're like, look, nobody else is going to tell you this, Mike, but they're not considering any white males for the shop. They're just not.
Isn't that something? You got a white male VP at Disney basically admitting they discriminate against white males, consigning himself to the fact that he probably is not going to move up any further, but in some weird way he seems okay with it. I don't mean to make it about that guy. They set him up sort of so that he thinks, I think he's on a date and whatever. It's wild how they can still get these people on tape. But the fact that this has been so corporatized, that racism and discrimination has been so ingrained into these systems is, I would say, a real problem. Elon Musk saw that video. He wrote this. This is messed up, and I suspect that Elon Musk over at Twitter and over at Starlink and over at SpaceX and Neuralink, that they don't hire people based on the color of their skin. When they're looking for engineers, they're like, oh, are you going to be able to help us build the coolest, most awesome, functional rocket so that we can travel the stars? We don't care what your genitals are or what skin color you are. That would be a functional way a society would operate. But let's shift this. This is going to be a bit of a segue here to the real big story of yesterday, because a lot of what I've done on this show is sort of showing you, of course, how the media is always running cover for the bad guys and they're throwing the good guys under the bus. Well, the big story yesterday was that Julian Assange has now been freed. We've got some info here from Chief Nerd on Twitter. First, the NBC headline. Julian Assange has reached a plea deal with the U.S., allowing him to go free. The WikiLeaks founder has been held in a prison outside London for the last 5 years and fought extradition to the United States. And then the quote from the article itself, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange plans to plead guilty as part of a plea deal with the U.S. Justice Department that will allow him to go free after spending 5 years in a British prison, according to court documents. Court documents revealing Assange's plea deal were filed Monday evening in the U.S. District Court for the Northern Mariana Islands, a U.S. territory in the Pacific Ocean. Assange was expected to make an appearance in that court to be sentenced to 62 months with credit for time served in British prison, meaning he would be free to return to Australia, where he was born. Now, obviously, this is sort of breaking right now, so there's a lot of questions here. Why is the United States suddenly freeing him? What is the plan? This has something to do with the presidential election. I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. What is the angle here? The administration is suddenly like, oh, we need to get the lefties happy with us again because they're not happy with us over Gaza, so we're going to free Assange. I don't know what it is. But here's a quick video, just 7 seconds or so, of Assange actually getting on a jet after being let out of prison. Okay, now Assange, we can talk about this much more in future shows. He did leak state secrets, so there is some issue there, right? We can all talk about the legality of this and whether he was doing the right thing or the wrong thing. I think as a journalist, he has every right to do that. The people who helped him on the inside, it's a different issue, right? But here, when people talk about what really this is all about, this video was making the rounds as to really why have they been going after Julian Assange for so long. I think this probably gets to the heart of it.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan, and back into the hands of transnational security. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
Nearly every war that has started in the past 50 years has been a result of media lies. The media could have stopped it if they had searched deep enough. If they hadn't reprinted government propaganda, they could have stopped it. But what does that mean? Well, that means basically populations don't like wars. And populations have to be fooled into wars. Populations don't willingly and with open eyes go into a war. So if we have a good media environment, then we'll also have a peaceful environment.
All right, so clearly we don't have a good media environment, but this idea of perpetual wars, remember, we wrapped up the Afghanistan war very sloppily, and then the Ukraine war magically appeared just like that. I think you could even make some argument that this is what the United States is now doing with Israel. We are not allowing them to win the war effectively so that we can keep them in perpetual war because they have to buy all of their weapons from us. I sat down with Julian Assange's wife. This was back in November at the ARC conference, Jordan Peterson's ARC conference, and we discussed, we talked about Julian being in prison and really what sort of that meant at kind of the meta level as it pertained to journalism and freedom.
Their hands certainly are not clean in how they deal with information and when it's political and when it isn't and what they decide to release and everything else.
Exactly. But then there's a lot of journalists who don't actually work in, who are more of a kind of commentary, in the commentary world, and maybe don't understand the bigger implications. But it should be, I think it should be clear as to all journalists that it impoverishes the public space, and the public space needs, like liberty, needs a robust public space to thrive. You need people who are, of different opinions, able to speak freely and to disagree, and by putting Julian in prison, like you kind of impoverish that ecosystem dramatically. And if journalists are not able to publish the most controversial things, then we're basically all in a kind of managed information environment at the moment, and social media has been incredibly complicit in this. And I think that they're after the public domain now. It started with Julian and obviously national security, highly controversial publications about war, right? But now it's just the opinions of anyone that is being censored, and this is all part of a spectrum. And I think the failure to defend Julian in the beginning has led to where we are now.
All right, so, to be clear here, Julian Assange is a journalist, right? So he was given information. He didn't hack a system to get information. He wasn't inside the United States government and had sworn an oath to the Constitution and then went outside of that or anything else. He was given this information. So again, there's a difference between, and there's a philosophical and a moral debate and a legal debate, I suppose, between the difference between someone like Chelsea Manning, who was a member of the military, who was leaking secrets. That's one thing, right? And that can be dealt with, and we can all have our own feelings on how that should be dealt with. That's different than a journalist who's just given the information and then publishes it. And if we're going to get to a place where we're going to be publishing the person who is given the information or forcing them to reveal their sources, then I think we're in a much different, then we're in sort of the place that I suppose that we're in right now. Now, let's get us, since we started the show on positive stuff around Neuralink and that there's incredible tech things happening, I think there are some good things happening in America right now, even as it pertains to the presidential election. And again, the debate is in 2 days. Check this out. This is from yesterday, Florida's Voice, which is a big news site here in Florida. No, President Biden's re-election campaign chair writes off Florida and its 30 electoral votes, concedes it is no longer a battleground. And Ron DeSantis retweeted that, and he wrote this: For decades, Florida was the largest, most important battleground state in the presidential elections. Today, even the Biden campaign acknowledges that those days are over. Florida is not in play in 2024. Now, really think how wonderful that is. Really think how wonderful that is. Florida, which obviously has led the nation in all of the anti-woke stuff, in governing properly and making sure that we're a place where law and order is respected and the Second Amendment is respected and the First Amendment is respected and all of that, and has been the beacon that has brought so many new people here and went from, I think, about 300,000 deficit Republican to Democrat when Ron DeSantis first took over, to about 1 million now more registered Republicans than Democrats. It's proof that if you govern properly, if you do the right thing, that the people see it, they respond properly, and then all of the evils of the Democrat Party, and it's become an evil party, almost top to bottom, they no longer work here. And now the Democrats are conceding that this place, which let's not forget, in year 2000, a long time ago, this was the ground zero for Bush v. Gore, because that's how tight it was. And they had hanging chads, and did this person accidentally vote for Pat Buchanan and all of that crazy stuff. And let's just connect this to one more thing. I just saw this video yesterday. I thought it was really cool. This is the former Prime Minister of Singapore. His name is Hsien Loong, on the evils of wokeness, because more and more people are waking up to this stuff. And it seems to be a condemnation of something that's particularly nefarious in the West, not everywhere else. So maybe there's something we can learn about that.
In the West, they got a movement called wokeness, where you are super sensitive about other people's issues, and you become hypersensitive when other people somehow or other say things or mention things or refer to you without the respect which you or your super subgroup feel you are entitled to. It leads to very extreme attitudes and social norms, particularly in some academic institutions, universities. You talk about safe spaces, you talk about appropriate pronouns, you talk about I'm about to say something which may be offensive to you. If you don't want to hear it, perhaps you'd like to leave now. And life becomes very burdensome. And I don't think we want to go in that direction. It does not make us a more resilient, cohesive society with a strong sense of solidarity. We must be more.
Isn't that it right there? And I love that the guy has just like this permanent smile on his face, right? Like, you're offended for other people and you have to constantly prove how offended you are. And at some point, it leads to all of the things that we have been talking about, right? Like all of the videos that we showed you yesterday of mass Hamas supporters attacking random Jews at temples. Like, at some point, the grievance culture actually rips away and melts the fabric of a good society. And that is what we have to restore. I hope there will be a slight restoration today in Westchester as New York 16 please pray to God in this case that they get rid of Jamal Bowman and they bring in George Latimer. And it doesn't matter whether you want a Democrat in Congress or not, but not a woke lunatic. And maybe that would then be the signal that AOC could be taken out or Tlaib could be taken out, that they could be voted away. And that we imagine if we just got rid of the progressive lunatics in Congress. If we just remove that, that would start bringing things back to the center. For anyone that's concerned about whatever elements of craziness are on the right, they would be sort of stymied by a left that started to disappear, a crazy left that started to disappear. And that's how we get what I would, as opposed to Amy Klobuchar, I think making up that 70 to 80% agreeing with Biden on abortion, that's how we get 70 to 80% of Americans who want to agree to disagree but love this country and want it to continue to flourish. That's how we actually restore the place. Guys, we've got some special July 4th merchandise over at daverubin.store. I'm told that the tumblers are selling like hotcakes, or tumblers, because tumblers sell extremely well, and the tumblers are doing quite well. We got a post-game show for you at rubinreport.locals.com in 30 seconds. We leave you with, I think you'll enjoy this outro. Adios.
Yeah, look,